Welcome back to the 5280 pitch, women's soccer at altitude. I'm Kate Hansen. So today's episode is special because we're talking to someone who literally made Denver Summit FC happen. Not a player, not a coach. One of the people who started the movement that finally brought an NWSL team to our great state of Colorado. Jordan Angeli, you have been following soccer for the last few years. You know who she is. She's a former NWSL player from Inglewood. She played for Colorado Rush, which is really cool because that is the team that one of my daughters plays for. So she plays for Rush. My other daughter plays for United. She is an NWSL broadcaster and one of the 4 founders of the Denver FC grassroots movement that turned into an actual expansion franchise. So let's get right into it. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me on the 5280 pitch today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kate. Quite the intro. It's, sometimes it's wild to think that this just happened a few years ago, and here we are, not even 3 years later, about to welcome the team onto the field. I don't know, like that turnover time is crazy, and sometimes I just gotta take it in and be like, yeah, that happened fast. That happened really fast.
Well, and not only taking the field very, very soon, but taking a massive field at Empower Field, Mile High Stadium. I saw that we just broke the record. We've sold over 45,000 tickets, now selling Upper Bowl tickets. So there is a strong want for women's professional sports here in Colorado. And, before we dive into the summit and bringing them here, I just want to introduce people to you a little bit because I just love the fact that we have 5 players on the roster that are from Colorado. You're from Colorado, and you played professional soccer. You played for Colorado Rush and led them to a national championship. So what was Colorado soccer culture like when you were coming up?
Mm-hmm. Well, back in the day, Kate, yeah, it's much different. The culture, I wouldn't say the culture maybe, but maybe just the way soccer was. It was much more simplified, right? You had state cup, you would try to play regionals, you would try to play nationals. But one of the things I recognized really early on is some of our best competition actually came from teams just right around the corner from us. So even though my team, as you said, was very successful on the national level, the hardest games we played were winning the state cup championship. So I think that the competition within our state, the way I think it comes down to the coaches, the clubs, the number of people in kind of a smaller metro area. It's pretty condensed. And so those clubs get the best of the best. And that really competition breeds success. And so some years we would lose and some years we would win. But I recognized right away that there was a lot of talent in Colorado. And I think it has to do, as I said, with the coaches, but also the way our state is, right? We have a lot of different elements. We have to deal with the altitude every time we step and breathe and run and sprint and everything. That is such a big factor. It toughens you up. The snow toughens you up. The wind. If you've ever played soccer in the wind, that toughens you up real quick. So I just felt like there's a toughness, a tenacity, a real humility as well about players coming from Colorado. But clearly the competition here has always been elite. And I think that has just driven players to want to get better week in and week out.
And that's something that I talk about a lot on the podcast is playing at altitude. And for people that might be thinking like, God, Kate, why are you harping on the altitude so much? I really think it's going to be a huge advantage for the summit this year for teams that might have never played at altitude like this. I know that Utah, they have the altitude too, but I really think that it's going to help us, and it helps all of our training from youth. We have 5 girls on the team that grew up playing here in Colorado.
Absolutely. It is a factor. And physiologically, like what the lack of oxygen does to your body, it makes it harder for your muscles to work and for you to get enough oxygen to your body when you're sprinting and trying to inhale all the things. Like I think just from a player standpoint, when I would play, whenever I would come back, I felt like the first part of training was always hard, like adjusting, and then the end. So to me, if I'm thinking about this team and how they could be really successful, well, those are the two in soccer in general, those are big parts of the game, but especially at altitude. Can you punish teams at the beginning of the game? Can you punish teams at the end of the game when altitude really can kick in?
Well, and you played professionally and you got to play at sea level.
Yeah.
I used to love running at sea level because I'm like, man, look at how far I can go. I can just keep
Right.
on running. When you were playing professionally, what was it like being from Colorado and knowing the level of competition that we have here that we didn't have that NWSL team? Was it hard kind of being like, man, we have such a great talent pool in Colorado. Why do we not have a professional team here?
Yeah, it was really hard. Some of my teammates were from Colorado as well. Taryn Hemmings, I played with her in Boston. Trained with Kristen Hamilton. I trained with Erica Sutton and Sarah Wagenfuhr, and Lindsay Heaps was trained with me. Janine Becky, I trained with. So all these players over the years that we would come back here either in our off season because this was home, and at the time we weren't making any money, so we had to live at home in the off season because you couldn't afford to do anything else. But those moments when we were training is just like, wow, we were always hopeful that something like this would happen, but we didn't know it was a reality, that it could actually w happen in the way that it has. Like, I think this is a dream come true, even bigger than what I could have ever thought, and it's really cool to give those players an opportunity to play in front of their friends and family. I never got that opportunity. My dad's one of 6. All of his brothers and sisters live up north, and they never got to see me play in real life when I was a professional. My next-door neighbors didn't get to watch me play. My best friends from school, like, all those people who could come to a game and support you because they really supported you throughout all your youth, you know? And, that's the thing that I think I have been driven by. That has been my why for all these players to get to experience something that I never got to experience. And I can't wait to see families in the stands supporting their daughters who play for the Summit or play for other teams, but they're going to be cheering on their daughter in their home state where they grew up. And to me, that is just something that I'll always be proud of.
Well, and it was really neat to see Lindsay Heaps announce that she was signing with the summit and how you guys your social team or your marketing team put all that together with her parents sitting down and talking about her playing, and then she took off the apron and she was wearing the summit shirt. One of the things that they said during that interview was missing being able to see her play and that she missed having them see her play. And as a mom, my daughters are 8 and 11, so they're not driving themselves
Right.
to any of these
Exactly.
practices. Um, I know how my life is revolved around going to their practices, their games, and I can't imagine not being able to see them after all the time, the money, the everything that has gone into this, not being able to see them play. So that's really cool that we were able to do that here in Denver.
Yeah.
And I know this wasn't an overnight thing, getting the summit here. So back in 2022, you started that grassroots movement with Ben Hubbard and Tom Dunmore and Nicole Glaros. Yep, yep. So what was the initial spark? Was it to bring a women's professional sports team here to Denver, or what really made you say we need to actually do this?
Yeah, I credit Tom and Ben because they did start in 2022. I didn't come in until the spring of 23, and it was through a Twitter message. Tom just reached out to me on Twitter, and it was a direct message, and I kind of was like, I don't know who this is, but when it popped up, it showed his bio above it, and it said, started Indy 11. He had worked for US Soccer, all these things that I knew in the soccer world had been like startup kind of things. And so I was like, all right, this guy must know what he's talking about. And I responded to him because he was like, hey, we're trying to bring a women's soccer team to Denver. Like, are you interested in learning more? And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
of course. I've talked about this for years. And the hardest part is just finding the connections that have the money, the capital to be able to bring a soccer team here. A few years ago, I remember having a really long conversation with a friend of mine, and I'm like, I just don't know. I don't know where the money is going to come from. Like, I don't know anybody who has millions and millions of dollars that I could say, hey, this is this will be successful here. And unfortunately, if we would have done it then, it probably would have been a $2 million expansion fee. The expansion fee was a lot more than $2 million just a couple years ago or last year. But the intrigue was these two guys who had real entrepreneur mindsets, knew the game of soccer. Tom knew how to build a team from scratch. He did it with Indy 11 and from a grassroots movement. And right away, I had a feeling that this could be really something special. And throughout the whole process, even when things weren't going well, I still had this feeling like this is going to work out. I would just get little glimpses. Like, to me, it was little God winks of like, all right, here's what it's going to feel like in the stadium, or like, here's the connection for this next person. Or we would have a meeting and I would just get this feeling like, ooh, this feels right. And I just really was so blessed that they brought me into this process, because I didn't know either one of these guys. Like, I had no idea who they were. And after a couple of meetings, I was like, I think we can really make this happen. And so, yeah, in the summer of 2023, during the Women's World Cup in Australia, we launched For Denver for Colorado, FDFC. And our idea was to show the world that Denver is a soccer city. And over these last couple of years, and really, and I see the numbers of the people that are going to come to the game in just a month, I think we're proven that Denver is a soccer city, and this market was so eager and so ripe for the picking. And you feel really honored that they brought me into the process and I was able to be there really from the jump and watch this whole thing unfold.
Yeah, I mean, and it's crazy. I still think it's crazy that we didn't, like, it took so long for us to have a team, because we go to all the games whenever the U.S. women's national team comes. Again, like, I've got small girls that love soccer, so I get it. We're a little biased, but Coloradans show out for the women's national team. It
And
always
that, honestly,
out.
that was a really good indicator for the commissioner, showing how quickly we sold out all those national team games. So she could see, like, there's a market where people don't just want to go to these games. Like, they are ready to buy the tickets because they know that they're going to sell out. And so credit to all the people in Denver who have gone to all the games and have supported the U.S. women's national team, because that was a really big marker for the commissioner to say, all right, this market is ready to go.
When you started FDFC, you organized a bunch of watch parties, you started building the community, got people just showing up. What was the strategy there? Like, how do you build a fan base for a team that doesn't exist yet?
Yeah, it's a good question, because our idea was to make it feel like a few years ago, Atlanta United kind of did the same thing. Like, their fans were wild even before the team saw the pitch. And our idea was, okay, we don't have an owner yet, but we have a really good idea. And we had concepts of where the stadium could be. We had really good connections in the political realm here in Denver, with the mayor and the governor, to say, okay, they're on board. They want to have this come to Colorado. And so we had done a lot of groundwork. We already had the site in Centennial. We had already talked to the city of Centennial for our practice facility, and that was already locked in. So our idea was, like, we want to present this to show and create some marketing, create some social buzz, that a potential owner would look at this and say, easy. Like, it's an easy choice to go to Denver. And with I think it was over 1,500 people that came to the first watch party we had at number 38, thanks to number 38, who they've been awesome throughout this whole entire journey. We had a line wrapping around the block. People were waiting to get in, and we could really take a lot of those photos and create videos out of that and create buzz. So if somebody, then on the side, we were having conversations with all these different potential owners, and we could just show them, hey, like, you don't have to excite this market. This market's already there. We just need somebody to see the vision that we have and say, hey, I want to take this on, and this is going to be something that I want to stand for. Yeah, it was really to show a potential owner, hey, come join us. It's going to be fun over here. So, and it worked exactly how we wanted to. Rob Cohen came in about October of 2023, so a lot quicker, a lot sooner than anybody knew that, because I don't think he really got announced until about a little over a year later as the lead owner. And that first conversation we had with him in October, I was like, this is a guy. I could feel it. He loves Colorado. He is, he's not from here, but he's basically from here. He raised his whole family here. And this guy loves sports. He loved the idea of owning soccer in Denver, like having a team that was in the heart of Denver that could really say, hey, we represent this state, we represent this city. And yeah, I think we found the best owner that we could.
Yeah, and it's I was actually a guest on another podcast, and we were talking about Rob coming in and IMA, and I had never even heard of IMA until the Avalanche. They wear the patch,
Right.
It's one of the sweater sponsors for the Avs, and so I was like, oh well, really, if you want to own a professional sports team in Denver, uh, the Cronkies really have it,
Yeah. Lockdown.
have taken over. But I mean, why not start with the first women's team and do it the right way? And everything that has happened since I really think everything that's happened with this team, from the owners to the first signing to the most recent signing to securing, Centennial Stadium, to securing, Santa Fe Yards, everything has been done very intentionally. And it shows that this is being thought of as a long-term investment, not just a, hey, let's see what happens if we get a women's professional team here in Denver and we can have them just play out at Dick's Sporting Goods and we can just do this. And like everything is really seem like this is built to last, and it's built to be here for a long time, very successfully.
Yeah. There's no corners that are being cut. That's for sure. The training facility is going to be top, best of the best. Not even, and this is not just in women's soccer. This is in soccer. Like I was a part of the Columbus Crew when they opened their performance center, and it was nice. And this is going to be nicer. But it just they've thought about so many little details, and Rob has been so invested in the process, in the decisions, in knowing who the staff is. Like he knows everybody. And to me, I've been in soccer for a long time, and to have an owner that is so involved, not like micromanaging, right? But involved in being there. He was at I don't know if you saw videos of them when they played in Santa Barbara, but the first ever game, he's standing there in the huddle with them, just like after the game doing the summit cheer. When you know who the owner is, you feel like you're playing, you know who you're playing for. And I've been on teams where I never met the owner. And if I did, maybe it was one time and I didn't feel like they really cared. It was just like, oh, we've got this soccer team or whatever. And that is the opposite of what it feels like here. It just feels like this is a place that he wants people to want to be at. And he does that by making everybody feel wanted and seen. And he's going to be an excellent owner in this league.
So we have Rob, he's the majority owner, and then Peyton Manning, Mikaela Shiffrin, you and the 4 Denver FC group as part owners. How did getting Peyton Manning?
There's a lot of other owners too who are just awesome, and we wouldn't be here if it weren't with them. It's a long list of names, so I'm not going to name everybody. I don't want to leave anybody out, but like this ownership group, yes, it is all of us, but there's many more people that have been there from before we found Rob and wanted to be a part of this, whether we would be in NWSL or USL was a thought for us for a moment. Yeah, it's just this ownership group is such a good group of people, and I'm really honored to be a part of it.
So how did getting Peyton Manning and Mikaela Shiffrin as part of the ownership group, how did that happen? I think it's pretty cool that we do have, I want to say, like maybe that brand recognition of Peyton Manning behind, saying like, hey, I'm an owner of this. I support it. You should too. Mikaela Shiffrin, she's, very well, she just won another gold. She's decorated. She's from Colorado. it's really cool to have these very public athletes that are part of the ownership group. I see them in my social feeds, promoting the summit. How does it feel to get them on the ownership list as well?
It's great. I don't know the details of how all that happened. That would be when you have Rob on someday. You can ask Rob those questions because he will know how that happened. But for me, when I think of excellence in from Colorado athletes, I think of people like Missy Franklin, right? I think of Mikaela Shiffrin is one that comes to mind almost immediately. Those two athletes and what they've done, like I know that there were conversations with both of them, and Mikaela ends up being a part of the ownership group. And for me, I am just it makes me so happy that she wanted to be a part of that she sees the value in saying, I'm going to put my name behind this and I'm going to have a team in NWSL that not only I support, but like that I'm backing. And so I just think for Mikaela, I can't wait to like pick her brain and really learn more about her and her athlete mentality. Like for me, selfishly, that's something that I'm thinking about. And then to have Peyton Manning, I mean, this guy comes in, wins a Super Bowl in Colorado, and is like, this place is awesome. Like, I want to live here. So just the name that Peyton Manning has and his personality, he is just as nice as he looks like, that he is. Like, he is a nice man. And his excitement to be a part of this team is something that I could feel when I talked to him. He knew things about like was talking to me about myself, and I'm like, this is so weird. Like Peyton Manning knows who I am. Like he's invested. He wants to know more about the team and be a part of it. So I don't know how that came about, but I know that when you're thinking like excellence, you think in Denver sports and Colorado sports, those are definitely two of
Yeah,
the people that jump off the board right away. And I'm just so happy that they decided to be a part of the ownership group.
definitely. And it's cool to see again them, but Colorado athletes, famous athletes, and like that have won the Super Bowl and
Yeah.
the gold medal, and like be like, look, I support this too. You should come on out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the Denver Summit name. Was that all? Did you guys have any insights? Like, get to choose some of the names that like the top four? Did you guys get to choose that at all, or was it all 100% fan vote?
Again, I was in this team that was doing I was on the naming committee, but I was not I don't work for the team, so I don't know the ins and the outs of some of the details of everything. But once we got the team in January, we knew the league turnarounds. Like to get customized kits from Nike, you had to have certain things like your colors, your crest, that all had to be done by March. And so we knew that it was a pretty quick turnaround from the end of January to March to figure out what this team was going to look like aesthetically and what the brand was going to feel and how the crest was going to look. So it was like a group of 6 of us, I think, that were on the naming committee. And yeah, we put the call out, and what we started to notice is some of the same similarities with what people were saying. And so it came down to 4 different names. And I loved that I love that we took other teams and maybe some of the falters of other teams, not just in NWSL, but in other sports where you just want to make sure your fan base feels like they're a part of it. And they've been a part of it since the beginning, right? If I don't think we would have been where we're at if it weren't for FDFC and the fans that showed up and became ambassadors and went to watch parties and all that stuff. So to have the fans a part of this vote for what the name was going to be was really important to us. And, you have to work around trademarks and you have to work around other things that, kind of come up and maybe were a little difficult to go around. But it was fairly unanimous that Summit was the lead candidate. And that was kind of from the beginning. We did multiple different polls, but from the beginning, it felt like that was going to be the name.
So I want to go back and touch on one thing that I feel like you kind of just threw out there in passing. And it's that you trained with Lindsey Heaps back,
Yeah.
and so you know her and you've trained with her. What was that like signing her? Because, she's U.S. Women's National Team captain, Olympic gold medalist from Golden, played at Rush. So her coming back to Colorado, that had to feel full circle for you.
Yeah, it was uh, surreal, really. For me, it's hard not to get emotional. I trained with Lindsey when she was 15 years old, and I could see what a phenom she was. I could see how she looked like a woman amongst girls when she played soccer. And I knew that she had a bright future. And so to watch her go from that to where she is now and to, be friends and to help her through some of the injuries that she's had and support her and watch her win a World Cup in France at the stadium and hug her afterwards. All these things that I now get to see her play for her hometown team is honestly like one of the best feelings ever. And I'm not even playing, right? I just get to watch somebody else experience it, which is so cool. It's still so cool.
Well, and you helped bring this team here. That's a whole nother layer of coolness. So
Yeah. But I won't ever know what it feels like to play on that field, but the pride I have to know that she's playing for her hometown, that Janine Sonis is playing for her hometown, these players that Kurt Johnson ended up signing that are all from Colorado, Jordan Knights, like it's I can almost feel it through them because they're just so happy to be here and they feel real pride to make this something special because we've been desperate for it for so long.
So we have Nick Cushing as head coach, and he's coming from Manchester City. When we hired him, what did that tell you about the club's ambitions for season 1?
They had their eyes on wanting to be not just a expansion team, but to me, signing Nick Cushing made it feel like, all right, we want to have the best expansion season that there has been. This is a really well-seasoned coach from the Manchester City group from the City group, coached at Manchester City, coached at New York City in MLS for a few years. And it's going to be pretty high intensity, I think. Strong possession play, wanting to keep the ball, wanting to be aggressive, front-footed soccer. And I'm excited. Like I've not personally seen Nick Cushing coach a women's team. I've watched many of his MLS games when I was in MLS, but I'm interested to see how he's learned since he left MLS, how he uses the team that Kurt Johnson put together to help him be successful. Yeah, and I'm just really excited to see what Nick Cushing has, and the players all seem to really be excited about what his ideas are, and mostly the players keep telling me like he wants to win. Like he talks about winning a lot, and I love that. I want to win too. I think we all want to win. So yeah, his emphasis on winning and figuring out how to win is a really good mentality to have, especially during your first year because it's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
Everything you're doing is brand new. You've never gone to the stadium together as a team. You've never traveled to Seattle together as a team. All these things are brand new. So to have that um, internal drive to figure it out and try to, think about winning no matter what is, to me, a really good standard and a culture set by Nick Cushing in this first year.
When you've talked about the roster that Kurt Johnson's built a few times, and you've got veterans on there like Pickett and Kurtz and Heaps, and she's coming midseason. But then you also have a bunch of rookies. How do you build chemistry with that mix of? I said this in last week's episode. It's like, oh, you know, 31, 32.
Older
Like,
people.
all these veterans in their early 30s. How are they going to be able to keep up? And I'm like, what am I talking about here? But
yeah,
how do you build chemistry with that mix, especially when your Heaps isn't going to be arriving until July? The girls have been out in Coachella practicing and playing and really building and forming those bonds. And then you're going to have some mid-season movement. And how is she going to fit in? So how do you think that that's going to affect chemistry, and how do you think that the chemistry is going to be within the team?
yeah. I wish was there to like give some insight and really talk about that. But I can just speak from my experience from playing is it's it's actually really invigorating and refreshing when you have this large mixture of athletes from really experienced to really young, because the young players are green and they don't really know what to expect. And so they actually might try something that you as a veteran wouldn't try because you've just gotten into this routine. So I think the veterans can learn as much from the rookies as the rookies can learn from the veterans. I'm really intrigued to see who leads this team. And there is a lot of really good leaderships. If you look across the line, and it can be some of these younger players as well. You bring in a player like Jazanaki, who just won the Mac Herman Trophy Award, right? Like, she's leading with what she's doing on the field at Stanford. She's probably going to want to lead in some ways in this team too. Is that going to look different than Janine Sonis? Yeah. But I think that's what makes a team really special, and something that like you'll forever cherish about being a part of a team is figuring out what works for you and how to all come together. And maybe there's a benefit of starting fresh, that there's no real responsibility on one person and leaders can kind of emerge naturally. I think we're kind of like wait and see till this team steps out on the field and we hear a little bit more from them through some media availability and to hear who the leaders have been. But I can imagine it's been a lot of players. And I just don't think it's, Megan Reed and Kaylee Kurtz and Janine Sonis and Ali Brazier. Like, I think it's a lot of these young players too who have held leadership roles who want to continue that into their professional career.
As someone who's been around this league, and as both a player and as a broadcaster, as Summit fans, what can we expect from what's realistic for an expansion team in year one? Like, what does success actually look like? Because I know what I see what we have put together on paper, how the team's already been constructed, the thought that's gone into every single roster move, and I'm very high on the Denver Summit. But call me Homer. Let's maybe help me rein in some of my expectations, because what should success look like for the Summit in year one?
Mm-hmm. Let's just, for me, I hope this team makes playoffs. And I think that would be, once you make playoffs, anything can happen. And the thing about an NWSL season, and we've seen it year after year, being a broadcaster, I have seen, Kansas City a few years ago were the worst team in the league. Well, the next year they made it to the final. You don't know what to expect. Every single week, the games are super competitive. I think this team will compete with every team out there. I can't imagine because we don't see this very often, like them getting blown out, right? Like, I think that there is a very competitive roster, and success to me feels like making the playoffs. Now, I'm not the coach. I'm not inside the locker room. I don't know what success for them looks like. But I think in this league in particular, if you can make the playoffs, anything is possible. Just look what Gotham did last year. Gotham were not good the first half of the year. And then they win a good chunk of games in the second half, find themselves in that last playoff spot, and they say, all right, we're going to win.
Yeah.
So I like that mentality of trying to make the playoffs, because there's so many ups and downs. It's a long season. March to November is a long time.
It's a really long time.
Yeah, so you have to be able to ride that wave and not get too high, not get too low, but just make sure you're keeping yourself in and around that playoff line.
Who should the Denver Summit be on the lookout for? These teams better than most in the NWSL. What teams should we be worried about? Which matchups do you think are going to be the most exciting? Yeah, to give us just a little bit of your broadcaster insight into what other teams are going to be throwing at the Summit this year.
Yeah, well, if you watch the first week of season for the Denver Summit, it's going to be a really difficult go. They go to Bay, who just really strengthened their team. They brought in Claire Hutton last week on a massive trade. They have a new coach. It feels like they have a new identity. I think Bay might be a sleeper team. If they get an attacking player, I think they need a forward still, but they might be a sleeper team in NWSL with what they can do. So they go to Bay, then they go all the way to Orlando for the next game, then Gotham midweek, and then come back and play the Washington Spirit. Orlando, champions 2 years ago. Gotham, champions last year. Washington Spirit played in both of those championship games. So I think that's a good litmus test right there, that first 2 weeks of season, what Summit fans should look out for, because the Washington Spirit, I think that game, it couldn't have been a better game to play the first home game against this Spirit team who just solidifies Trinity Rodman on their roster. They are deep. This team has 2 players at every position who can really hurt you. I really like their head coach, Adrian Gonzalez, and his style of play. He's really tactical and mixes it up against every single team that he plays. So this is going to be a difficult game at home, but I think that is going to be it's going to be so fun because there's star power on both teams, and it's going to be in front of a lot of people. So I would say that those first 2 weeks will show you a lot about what the Summit can do in NWSL.
Well, I guess that's just a reminder, if you have not gotten your tickets for...
Where have you been?
For March 28th. Get your tickets now, because we've already broken the record. Let's just blow it out of the water and make it unreachable for anybody to ever top that.
We might as well just sell out the stadium. We just need 30,000 more fans, but why can't we do it?
Why can't we? We've already gotten this far, and I mean,
I've been saying that the whole time. Why not? Why can't we do it? Let's do it. Let's make a team. Let's bring it here. Let's sell out Empower.
Yes.
So come on, people, get your tickets.
So get your tickets. The kits just dropped. Get your kit. You can check it out online. Check out the Instagram. What did you think when you first saw the kit?
Oh, I knew, of course, I knew the colors about a little over a year ago. I had a sneak peek at the colors, and I've just loved the colors from the beginning. But to see them all together in what the players are going to be wearing, I mean, Kate, you've talked to me long enough. I cry a lot, and I cried when I saw them. And the first time I saw them was at the Lindsey Heaps photo shoot, and it was just I can't believe this is what we're gonna. I just had goosebumps everywhere. I can't wait to get mine. The colors are perfection, and I think you guys are. I mean, now you guys all have the reaction, so you'll get to say what you feel. But for me, I think they look just so sharp.
So last question, and I'm gonna tee you up here. What do you want to say to Colorado soccer fans who are just now discovering the Summit, or who are saying, why a women's soccer team? No one's going to watch it. What's your pitch to get them invested in this?
Everyone is welcome. We want young girls to come out and see their dreams run around on the field and say, hey, one day I can do that. We want little boys to come out and support and say, man, women's soccer is cool. It's fast-paced. It's intense. They can even be inspired to be a professional soccer player when they're older by watching the women. I know I watched men when I was younger, and that's why I wanted to be a professional soccer player. I just think for the community, this is something that you can start supporting from the beginning, right? You've inherited the Broncos. You've inherited the Nuggets and the Rockies. All these franchises started so long ago. Well, this one is starting now, and you can be a fan from the beginning. And that's a really special thing. It doesn't happen all that often. This team is going to be gritty and hardworking, play some beautiful soccer, and engaging. I think they're going to really do a lot of great work in the community. So to the people that haven't gotten on the Summit train yet, you're welcome to hop on anytime you want. To those who have made this possible, thank you. Your support, we would have never made this happen if it wasn't for you. I'm just so grateful for this community for giving us a chance to see this become a reality. It's going to be so cool to be there in that stadium with, right now, 45,000 people. Could be a lot more then. And I hope we all can just remember that day as a historic day in Denver, Colorado.
Jordan, thank you so much for joining me on the 5280 pitch. This has been such a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time and sitting down and talking with me.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Kate. I appreciate it.